Ontario, and every day I'm science-based psychology on my YouTube channel. And today we will be discussing about neuroscience of mental growth and how to train your brain for life. Many of you have noticed that sometimes it's easier for you to focus, sometimes it's more difficult. And there are certain factors that you can use in order to train your brain and to use it in its maximum capacity. And today we will be sharing with these strategies and what you can do if you want to learn to train your brain better. Uh, and I want to start a conversation with a question that changes everything once you really understand the answer about how your brain works. So, is your mind right now fundamentally the same as it was when you were 5 years ago, or has it genuinely grown, changed, expanded? And more importantly, are you growing your mind deliberately or just letting time pass and calling it experience? Because there is a profound difference between those two things. And tonight, we are going to explore exactly that difference. And today we are going to discuss about neuroscience of mental growth, how to train your brain for life. And you will learn about what is neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to change, to develop as you learn new skills and new information, and what the science actually says and how the brain grows through deliberate challenges, efforts, and we're also going to discuss about the role of sleep, stress, and novelty, learning new things in its development. And we will be also mentioning about metacognition, what is it and how you can make use of it in order to train your brain and improve your memory and the ability to focus and to considerably improve your quality of life. And thinking about your own thinking, how to notice your thoughts and how to use your thoughts in order to improve your life. And I will also share 4 tools to accelerate your mental growth. And let's begin. First of all, what is neuroplasticity and how it can be useful for you? Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural pathways, and perhaps the most important finding in modern neuroscience, because for the most of 20th century, the dominant opinion was that the adult brain is essentially fixed, stable, and it's not possible to change it. And once you were born with a certain number of neurons, and after childhood, it stays stable, and the structure is largely set, and it's mostly not possible to change, to develop your brain. And according to Michael Marzani, according to his research, a lot of researches were conducted in this area, and they have found that this information was completely wrong, and the adult brain is continuously changing, evolving, developing, and both structurally and functionally, and in response to experience, learnings, and environment. And this was incredible founding, because this meant that anybody at any age is able to develop their brain according to their using this knowledge and changing their routines, environments, the way of learning, and other factors that can influence formation of new neurons and change of brain. And according to Santiago Ramon Cajal, the father of modern neuroscience, he wrote in 1928 that it's for the science of the future to change, and if possible, the harsh degree, and the future has arrived, the degree has been changed. And what are some types of plasticity? There is structural plasticity, and physical changes in the brain occur. New synaptic connections are being formed, and dendritic growth, even neurogenesis, and the birth of new neurons, primarily in the hippocampus area. And there is a functional plasticity. It's the brain's ability to redistribute function. When one area is damaged, others can compensate and take over. This is extremely important, especially for the people who had strokes or who had brain damage. This information was quite hopeful for them, and right now there are a lot of studies that are being conducted in order to help and to use this way of compensating other areas of brain. And according to Eleanor Mangar's famous London test driver study, drivers who were able to spend years navigating London's complex streets showed considerably larger hippocampus and the memory and navigation center. So this study has proved that human's brain is constantly changing, evolving according, depending on environments we are being exposed and knowledge we are learning and information environments that we are exposing ourselves. And the brain has physically grown as well in response to the demands placed on it. So our brains is not something as fixed. It's an adaptive organ shaped by what you do, what you think, and what you practice. Therefore, the question is, are you shaping it intentionally, and how are you using this information, and what are you doing in order to use this information and to improve your mental health or improve your life? And according to Hebb's rule, the fundamental mechanism, Donald Hebb's foundational principle, neurons that fire together, wire together. So what does it mean? Every time when you repeat a thought, a behavior, or a skill, the neural pathways on that direction strengthen, they develop. And every time you practice a new way of thinking, you are literally laying new neural infrastructure. So this means each time when you are learning something or repeating new ways of responding, learning, and seeing things and learning new information, your brain is constantly changing and evolving. And habits of mind are as real as habits of behavior, and they can be built with the same intentionality. So how the brain grows and what's the role of challenge? The most powerful driver of neuroplasticity is cognitive challenge at the edge of current capacity. So at times, for instance, when something seems difficult for you while you are trying to learn, making some efforts, this means that you are actually training your brain and new skills, new neurons are being developed. And when tasks seem too easy, there is minimal plasticity. And when tasks are impossibly hard, stress also shuts down plasticity. That's why what does it say, like how we can use this knowledge? When we are learning, adjusting the level of complexity of our knowledge can incredibly help to increase neuroplasticity and help you to learn, help you to develop your brain. Therefore, while you are trying to learn something, trying to make it not too difficult or too easy can be one of the most important steps in order to develop neuroplasticity. And this is the same principle we saw in flow states. If you remember, we have discussed that challenge skill sweet spot, and therefore we are applying it specifically to mental growth. And the same level of flow, the level of flow is also catched at this stage when whatever we are trying to learn is not too difficult or too easy, and the same is applicable for neuroplasticity. And then there's Erickson's deliberate practice. Research shows that expert performers across virtually every domain develop their capabilities through practice that target specific weaknesses, not just repetition of what they already do well. So this means that really successful people, athletes, performers are not just constantly repeating the same behavior. At the same time, they are trying to learn everything, every day something new, and also help their brains to develop. And what is BDNF? Maybe you have heard about it. It's also called brain's fertilizer, and it's related with brain growth, brain-derived neurotrophic factor is sometimes also called as miracle growth for the brain. It promotes survival of existing neurons and the growth of new neurons and the strengthening of synaptic connections. And what increases BDNF is, first of all, exercise, being physically active, particularly aerobic exercises. And this is John Ratey's central finding in SPARK. And single bout of exercise produces a BDNF surge that increases learning to hours afterward. And novel learning, social connection, intermittent fasting, and critically adequate sleep. So if we want to increase BDNF levels, there are certain things we can do. First of all, using exercises as a factor and paying attention to our sleep patterns, diet, healthy eating, and learning anything new every day. And what decreases BDNF? Constant stress, social isolation, sedentary behavior, poor sleep, and very significantly learned helplessness. This means that the belief that you cannot change anything and that your actions don't matter. It's more often seen with depression symptoms. When people are having depression symptoms, there is a lot of role of cognitions. And for instance, when people are facing challenges, when they believe that they can solve the problem or they believe in their capability, that they can change some of factors and create change, they recover faster and they are able to change their situation. But when on the cognitive level there is a learned helplessness and they believe that they cannot change anything, it can be more difficult to heal because this impacts their feelings, their behavior, and as a result, in the long run might be impacting their healing and even life. So if we come about sleep and memory consolidation, here is something most people don't know about it. Learning happens during practice, but the actual neural consolidation, the wiring of new knowledge into permanent memory happens during the sleep. And Matthew Walker's research has shown that during slow wave sleep, the hippocampus replaces the day's learning experiences, transferring them to the long-term cortical storage. And during REM sleep, the brain integrates new information with existing knowledge, creating newer connections, novel connections. So what does it mean? If you are having sleeping problems and if you are not able to fall into deep sleep, this means this might cause challenges with your focus, memory, and learning. Therefore, a deep sleep and being able to fall into deep sleep is one of the factors that contributes for your learning, memory, and for developing new skills. And if you learn something and don't sleep well, you might lose some parts of information of what you have learned. And sleep is not recovery from learning, it's the completion of learning. And when we come to the topic of metacognition, metacognition means thinking about your thinking. And there are a lot of therapy types that are including metacognition. There are different types of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's also seen in acceptance commitment therapy. Metacognition means stepping back and being able to notice your thoughts and to increasing your awareness and being able to respond to thoughts accordingly. And it's one of most important mental growth tools and one of the least touched rules. Metacognition is also thinking about your own thinking and awareness of your own cognitive processes, biases, limitations, and strategies. And why is this important is that once a person is able to determine their way of thinking, if they can realize is this way of thinking useful for them or is this damaging or harming their ways of viewing themselves, the world, and perceiving the world, changing. Yes, changing, but oftentimes changing the relationship with the thoughts can be one of the most powerful tools in order to create change in your life. And for that, the first step goes through noticing your thoughts, that these are just thoughts, that these are not who you are. For instance, from the previous examples that we have discussed, if a person believes that they cannot change their situation, if they have a learned helplessness, if they are fused with these thoughts and if they accept it as reality, this would impact their behavior, and maybe they will not try new skills or try to solve the problem because they would feel hopeless because of these thoughts. But once a person can step back and notice that these are just thoughts, and this is just their view, and if they can change relationship with these thoughts and to relate to these thoughts just as thoughts, they can still create freedom in their life, and their psychological flexibility would be increased. This means they would become more flexible in responding to these thoughts, and even this, like oftentimes the thoughts are automatic, which means that you cannot control whether to have that thought or not, and they can come automatically. And even if you cannot stop the thoughts, you can learn to see them from distance and to learn to respond to them differently in the ways that would serve your overall goals. For instance, if your goal is to succeed or to contribute to your society, at any time when you will have this thought, you would notice these thoughts. You can still make room for the thought and act in line with what's important for you. But when you are fused with the thought and when your awareness of thoughts is decreased, it will be more challenging for you to act, to notice the thought and to act differently. And most people will find themselves staying at home, for instance, or not taking any action, or anhedonia would increase, like they would not want to do anything. Therefore, metacognition is very important, and according to research also, it's one of most important factors contributing to change, and it's used for the treatment of a lot of mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and other challenges. And according to John Flavel, who coined the term, he identified two components of metacognition. First of them is metacognitive knowledge, what you know about how you think, and metacognitive regulation, how you monitor and adjust your thinking in the real time. So, for instance, one of easiest ways of using this metacognition and this knowledge is journaling. For instance, when you feel stuck or when your mood is low, try journaling your thoughts and feelings, and over time you would notice some similarities. And most of thoughts we have are negative, and this is because of how our brains are designed. Even if a person doesn't have depression or anxiety or doesn't have any mental illness or challenges, even despite the fact the thoughts are negative. So what happens when we don't notice our thoughts? It might considerably impact our behavior and make us feel stuck. So when you start to notice your thoughts, you can change the relationship with them and to start acting in line with what's important for you. And research consistently shows that high metacognitive ability predicts academic achievement, professional performance, and decision-making quality beyond IQ. So, for instance, imagine if a person is able to identify which feelings they are having right now, or which thoughts they have. For instance, if, like, oftentimes if you are angry or if you are very upset, you would notice constant thoughts that are coming. And if you will be able to notice these repeating thoughts, you can better regulate your emotions, you can improve your relationships, you can stay calmer during the times of stress. So it's one of most important factors and knowledge that you can use in order to succeed and to achieve your goals. And Shane Frederick cognitive reflection test found that many highly intelligent people make systematic errors in reasoning because they don't pause to examine their initial intuitive responses. And metacognition provides this space for pausing. For instance, think about yourself. At times when you feel frustrated, exhausted, burnout, or angry, or very sad, like at times when you are having very high emotions, uh, there are generally thoughts also that are accompanied with these feelings. And oftentimes there is a thought before the feeling is coming. And if you will be able to understand which thoughts are causing the emotions, it will be easier for you to regulate your emotions, and maybe stress will not impact you the way as it was impacting. Or even if there are certain conditions, environments, factors that you cannot change, once you are able to change your relationship with these thoughts or experiences, or even create a new meaning, think about of new perception of the experiences, you can considerably better cope with stress and improve your mental well-being, and also gain cognitive flexibility and ability to see the situation from different perspectives, from the eyes of different people. This would also considerably help you to increase your empathy levels, improve your relationships, to understand yourself and others better, and be less reactive, and to be able to better regulate your emotions, and as a result, to be more successful. And according to Shane Frederick's cognitive reflection, many highly successful people, they were also making some systematic errors in reasoning, especially if there might be some thoughts that you learned during your childhood or when you were younger. And when you start to notice your thoughts, for instance, you find that they are really not all the thoughts that we have are reflecting reality. For instance, I'm noticing that many people who are having traumas or very adverse negative experiences in the childhood, they have difficulties trusting other people. And many of them are saying, I can't trust anyone, nobody is trusted. So when you consider this from their perspective, yes, this makes sense. And also we know from research that according to the way our brains were designed, we are like our system and brain is constantly trying to protect us. So maybe at the time when they had pain or trauma, this thought was helping them to keep them safe, or to decrease possible damage from other people or harm. But right now, maybe the conditions have changed, and this thought is not serving them anymore. And maybe this makes it difficult for the person to connect with people, to meet new people, and they stay isolated. So once a person is able to determine and identify these wrong cognitions, they can easily create more flexibility. For instance, people who are having social anxiety or mostly isolating themselves, once they notice this thought, they can create another relationship with the thought. They can say, okay, this makes sense that I have this thought, that these thoughts are coming because I experienced something very difficult, and it can be difficult to trust, but this doesn't mean that nobody can be trusted, or that everyone is equal and everyone is going to harm you. So this is one of examples how you can notice your thoughts and how you can use this knowledge for improving your mental health and overall life. And according to Daniel Kahneman's System 1 and System 2 frameworks, they directly related with metacognition. And System 1 means having a fast, automatic, intuitive and thinking that is full of biases. And System 2 is slow, deliberate, analytical. And metacognition is using System 2 to audit System 1. So what I wanted to say is that also oftentimes you would notice at times when you are experiencing a peak of emotions such as exhaustion, burnout, anger, sadness. Oftentimes the thinking is very fast, and there are a lot of judgments or rigid thoughts that are there. Rigid means accepting all the truth, all the thoughts as literal truth, and not being able to see from different perspectives. So when we are thinking fast and when there are a lot of automatic thoughts, uh, there is more likeliness of having these thinking errors. But when we stop and we start to notice thoughts and to see the thoughts, then this likeliness decreases. And for instance, try to remember at times when you were able to stay calm even during the times of stress or a lot of difficulties. Those are generally times when you can step back, pause, and to see your thoughts or to think about an environment. So deliberately pausing can considerably help you to notice this fast thinking, and also learning to change your relationship with the fast thinking. And then in progress dynamic, David Dunning and Justin Kroger's famous research found that people with limited knowledge in a domain tend to significantly overestimate their competence because they lack the metacognitive capacity to recognize their own deficiencies. So what does it mean? The more you genuinely know about something, the more aware you become of what you don't know. You would probably notice that the people who are very successful, they are constantly researching about their field or about the field that they are interested. And this is one of the skills and perspectives that carries them towards success, because they are constantly trying to research, to learn. And this awareness itself is a mark of intellectual growth. And for instance, scientists or people who were extremely successful from the history, at the end they were noticing that there is still a lot of knowledge that they don't know. And according to Socrates, he understood this thousands of years ago, and he knew that I know nothing. This is not called nihilism. It's epistemic humility, the foundation of genuine wisdom. You can also see it in other cultures and religions also, about importance of learning, about importance of constantly researching. And so if you are open to learn about things instead of a fixed mindset, you will develop a growth mindset and will constantly be curious about things and judge less. So what are some tools that you can use in order to improve your metacognition and cognitive abilities, and to improve your brain function and working? For any skills or knowledge area you want to develop, apply deliberate practice principles that we will discuss here today. First of all, identify your specific weakness in the domain, not just what you enjoy practicing, what challenges you are experiencing, and design your practice that specifically targets that weakness. And seek immediate feedback, whether from a mentor, from your teacher, or someone who is experiencing this field, and make it slightly uncomfortable. If what you are trying to do to learn is very easy, then as we have discussed, this will not contribute to your growing. And it's also important for it not to be too challenging, because this might lead to avoidance and procrastination and stress, which also blocks development of new cells and also catching the sense of flow. And this is the difference between experience and growth. Experience is time plus repetition, whereas growth is time and deliberate challenge. And metacognitive check-in, this is the second strategy. It's built on a brief metacognitive check into your daily practice. And there are 3 questions that you can use for increasing metacognition. What did I actually learn today? What am I still confused about specifically? And what assumption am I making right now that I haven't examined? So this means being constantly curious and interested about things that are happening around you, about your learning, and not accepting everything as if you know everything, but constantly researching, trying to find ways of learning and seeing the people, events, yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, and everything that surrounds you. And these three questions activate your reflective, examining quality of mind that drives genuine intellectual growth. And also, as we have mentioned, journaling your feelings and thoughts, even briefly. This this helps to build the habit of metacognitive awareness. And many people, they are noticing that once they were able to journal for quite a long time, they start to notice their thoughts and feelings better, faster, and this helps them to react differently, to improve their relationships, to make their learning and growth easier, and would carry them towards the change they want to achieve faster. And novelty injection, for instance, brain grows most rapidly in response to novelty. New environments, new problems, new challenges, new ways of communicating, new perspectives, and new problems even. And according to research that I have read, if you are constantly exposing yourself to people who have different views than yours, you are less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease, because each time when you are challenging your own thinking and trying to understand new perspectives, you are helping your brain to develop and to learn and to grow. So exposing yourself deliberately to different situations, to different knowledge, methods, strategies, people, thinking style is one of efficient ways of uh, helping your brain to grow, to develop, and to be better. And for instance, what are some ways of deliberately injecting novelty into your intellectual life? Some people are trying to thrive in different roles, different times. Some people are changing their books, trying to read new genre. Some people are traveling, some people are entering and exposing themselves to different groups, learning a new language. So, reading also your primary domain, learning a skill that has nothing to do with your current expertise. Even some psychotherapists are choosing to do a part-time job that is different from their jobs, because this also helps them to relax and to grow again and to develop their brains. So the goal here is to prevent your brain from running on autopilot. And when we are on autopilot, we are most likely to respond in the ways that we don't want. We are less likely to notice our thoughts and to achieve the change we want to achieve. And the last one is teaching test. According to Feynman technique, if you can't explain something simply, you don't really understand it yet. And regularly teaching what you are learning to someone else, to a journal, to a recording of yourself, can considerably help you to learn better the information that you are reading. And the gaps in your explanation reveal the gaps in your understanding. Therefore, teaching is not just a test, it's a learning accelerator. And organizing knowledge for explanation deepens and consolidates it. You learn most what you teach most. So how you can use this knowledge may be explaining what you are trying to learn to your classmates, or discussing it with your colleagues, or opening live conversations like this might help. So is there an age at which the brain stops growing significantly? Plasticity doesn't decrease with age. The mechanisms are somewhat less efficient. For instance, you would notice that with the aging, people become a little bit slower. However, this doesn't mean that their brain stops to develop, to grow. You can still apply a lot of strategies, but the ability of neuroplasticity, of growing your brain, can depend on different factors such as age, environment, stress factors, physical symptoms, genetics, eating patterns, and others that we have discussed. And according to Merzen's research, with older adults, there shows significant cognitive development through deliberate challenges at any age. And this principle remains the same challenge, feedback, sleep, repeat, and timeline is just slightly longer. So maybe depending on the factors, for some people, this would happen slower, but this doesn't mean that it's stopping or your brain is not growing, it's not developing. So how do I know if I'm actually growing mentally or just consuming information? The key distinction is that consumption versus integration. Reading, watching, listening, consumption, but being able to explain what you have learned in your own words, applying it to a new situation, and integrating it with what you already know is called an integration process. And growth requires integration. When people are able to use the knowledge that they are consuming, this becomes more useful for their brain and for their daily life. And teaching tests and the metacognitive check-ins measure this directly. And can meditation grow the brain? Yes, with strong evidence. And Sarah Lazar's research at Harvard University shows that experienced meditations have measurably thicker cortex in regions related to attention and interoception, and 8 weeks of mindfulness-based stress reduction programs produce measurable structure changes in amygdala, at hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, and meditation is one of the most well-evidenced neuroplasticity interventions available. Hope that this session was helpful for you. If you have further questions, don't forget to leave your questions in the comments. And see you in the next sessions. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share this information with other people who might benefit from these sessions. Take good care of yourself.